this very often, but because of my situation yesterday, felt like I owed it to the people to run this back. So what I'm about to play next is just to give you a backstory. The gentleman is being sentenced, and he was basically trying to plead with the judge to be a little lenient, and he didn't like the response that he got, and it became extremely excessive. So I want y'all feedback. I would love to know your thoughts on what you saw in this clip, and we'll close out from there after. Um,
The drama began yesterday as 30-year-old Yobra Redden was being sentenced after pleading guilty to attempted battery. At first, he sounds reasonable as he asks for a break.
I feel I shouldn't be sent to prison.
Then the judge notes his long criminal history, including convictions for robberies and battery.
Got a lot going on, sir.
I'm in a better place in my life.
The judge isn't buying his plea for probation.
But I think it's time that he gets a taste of something else because I just can't with that history.
That's when chaos erupts. Look at that leap. Redden goes flying right over the bench. Court officers in the Las Vegas courtroom pounce. The judge is somewhere under the bench trying to protect herself from his blows. 4 minutes later, as a court officer nurses a head injury, Judge Mary Kay Holthus reappears, clearly reeling from the attack. Redden's foster mother was in court when he lost it. In an exclusive interview with Inside Edition today, Karen Springer says Redden was off his meds.
What he did, no shape, form, or fashion do I condone it. I was just as heartbreaking and shocked as anyone else. But like he told me, he just snapped.
Redden's outburst is just the latest instance of violence aimed at judges. We spoke to TV judge Glenda Hatchett.
It really is very disturbing that someone would just snap like that. And it could have easily been a lot worse.
The judge was...
I've seen that before.
Yeah, so.
And there are many things that go through my mind, more questions than anything else. It's hard to really provide good analysis on something like that because it is so short, and we're only seeing the instance. We're not seeing the before of what happened, and that's really important. One thing that one of my mentors, when I was studying behavioral analysis, said is that you cannot view things in a snapshot because life doesn't happen in a snapshot. There's always a before and an after, and you have to look at it as a movie reel, taking into account all the things. Oops. So what we're seeing is an instance. We're seeing a snapshot of something that happened. And you get sort of an idea of his past based on his criminal activity. But what you don't see is what kind of life has he led that brought him to this. So he has a foster mother. What is that? How did that come to pass? What is that? Why was that? At what point did he actually go into the system? At what point why was he brought into the system? There's so many things that have to be looked at. As far as that judge, what was it that she was dealing with? And with the legal system itself, one thing that the celebrity judge said was that it's disturbing to see how people can snap in an instance. That's not true. There is not just an instance. This has been building over decades, and we have to take that into account as well. A time of grievances of a miscarriage of justice or a belief of a miscarriage of justice. And these things all have to be taken into account. the way that people are perceiving themselves, what they are entitled to or what they should have based on what they're experiencing is also really important to look at. These aren't things that happen just in a vacuum. All manner of experiences have to be taken into account. And unfortunately, all that media cares about is the drama that unfolds, or how things look, or what is being done in that snapshot. And there's no understanding that is being had or being taken into account. And it's unfortunate.
It is. And I had a brief discussion with my partner off camera. His stance was more focused on that aesthetic, right? The only thing he saw was her. All he heard was her words. Nothing else mattered in the entire video. Initially, when I watched it, I because I heard what he said and I wanted to see what he was talking about, just to see whether or not I was tripping, because you know people see different things within a video. This isn't enough to really say one way or another. Was she out of pocket, or whether or not he just completely went off the rail on his own accord, or was he triggered? Not for me. I didn't see enough there. Even just with what she was given, to me, it looked as if, and this is just a summary from the clip, not knowing his background, his history. If I'm the judge, you're a repeated offender. You have the possibility of doing this again. Based on what I'm looking at objectively, you are a liability to somebody. And clearly, you haven't learned from all of this, because here we are again. I have to now decide whether or not I should take it easy on you, or do what I feel is best for the general public. That's all I'm looking at. I'm not really trying to dig into her roots or his roots. I'm just looking at the facts that's given to me. If you want to break it down further, that's an entirely different conversation.
Mm-hmm.
But I just, given what I saw, even if you want to say, she triggered him or said something that made, there's absolutely no reason for a person to do anything like that at all.
I agree.
None. And sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never hurt me. Haven't you heard of that before? And you're in, and you're in court. So you telling me you already know his track record? You got all his files there. They should already be prepared to make sure that that doesn't happen anyway. I'm just thinking like, all right, you got all these officers here. Why isn't he cuffed at least? There's no reason why he should have been able to do what he did in that courtroom.
So based
But that's
on
just my
just oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
no, you go. You go.
Okay, based on just what was seen on the video, if we only take into account the circumstance where the judge was just given the information about him and she had to render a decision, I am in complete agreement with you. There was no reason for that behavior to take place. And what it tells me is that the defendant was expecting a certain outcome, and because he didn't get it, he believed that he was entitled to the outcome he wanted. And because he did not get that, he was within his rights, or so he believed, that he was able to take that out on the person who was sentencing him. And what that tells me is that he was not taking full responsibility for his actions. He was believing that, oh, I pled guilty, so I expect that this is going to happen. And because it didn't, because it shattered his expectations, he did what he did. But the point is, he was unwilling to accept responsibility for what he'd done. And that was obvious because he was willing to commit violence in order to get his way in a situation where he was being violent and was arrested and was now being sentenced. Yeah, that doesn't make any sense. He absolutely deserved what he got. As far as he whatever the judge would have said, he would have deserved, because, like you said, he was, or and like the video said, he was a repeat offender, and this is something that was a pattern. And we always look after patterns. Even the most objective observer is going to see a pattern and say, if I have to make a decision based on a pattern, this is the decision I'm going to make. And most times they're going to probably make the same decision that judge was going to make, where she was going to sentence him to some time. And the only thing that he can do is accept it, because he had committed actions that were uncivil and put him in the place where he was. The only real action that would have been acceptable by him is to accept the fact that he was there because of his own actions, and to accept whatever punishment he was going to be given, because it was deserved, because of where he was, because of what he did.
The funny part about it is, and it's not funny, but it's funny.
Ironic, yeah.
If you had any chance of even giving off the illusion that you were reformed, you kind of just screwed yourself.
Yeah.
You basically just reinforced your sentence with your actions just then. You don't even have restraint in the courtroom. Oh yeah, you really just you made my job just that much more easier. You couldn't even control yourself. But hey,
there's something about the situation that, while I agree with your assessment, and I agree that his behavior basically condemned him to whatever fate, and worse, he was going to get, because his portrayal of being someone who was contrite and reformed was absolutely shattered, because it was so paper thin. There's something else that I see here. We probably don't have time to get into it right now, but it's something that might be good to talk about later on. And that is how things have gotten to the point where they are. And there's a lack of reformation within the justice system. And there's a focus on punishment. And what that does to a person, how it makes a person respond, and how it creates a certain emotional calibration within a person. And be bodacious, I am and I'm not. I'm kind of extrapolating beyond it right now. It's more about the idea that there's something within the system itself that needs to be reevaluated. Because if there was a different way of interacting with people, if we saw people as being someone, unless they are the most violent offenders, rapists, murderers, arsonists, that's a completely different law. But for anyone else who is not in that way, someone who is not looking to harm or to destroy the spirit of another person, if we see them as someone who has gone astray, yes, but capable of being reformed, capable of actually being reached and something else taking place, a better way of being, and that was taken seriously by the justice system. I wonder how that might change things. How people would be, they would be predisposed to act differently. And this is probably going to be a much larger discussion because it has to do with a lot of working parts, but it's something that makes me think. And that's really all that I can do about that right now.
Yeah, definitely. At some point we can come back to this. I just kind of wanted your thoughts initially on it, what you saw from just that small part of it, because really it is a bigger problem and there's too many pieces that you can't just unpack in a couple of minutes. That really takes some time. So we can definitely come back to this at another date. But if you, I mean, like